I don't tell this story often. Most people don't want to hear it. The ones who do usually think I'm exaggerating or that grief has twisted the details in my mind. But I was there. I saw what happened. And I've spent the last 3 years trying to understand why I made it out and Marcus didn't. We'd been planning that trip since January. Marcus and I had been hunting together for almost 15 years, ever since we met at a gun range outside Bozeman. He was the kind of friend who knew when to talk and when to just hand you a beer and sit quietly. We'd done dozens of trips together. Elk in Wyoming, mule deer in Colorado, one memorable week chasing whitetail in the Missouri breaks where we got snowed in and had to hike out through 2 feet of fresh powder. This trip was supposed to be different, easier. A late October black bear hunt in the Selway-Bitterroot Wilderness, right on the Idaho-Montana border. Marcus had drawn a tag, and I was coming along as his backup. The forecast looked perfect. Cool nights, clear days, aspens turning gold against the dark green of the lodge poles. We'd packed light, planning to hike in about 8 miles to a drainage Marcus had scouted the previous spring. There was a small clearing near a creek where we'd set up our tent, and the whole area was thick with huckleberry bushes. Bear sign everywhere, he'd told me. Fresh scat, claw marks on trees, overturned logs. It would be perfect. We left Missoula early on a Thursday morning, my truck loaded with gear. Marcus was in a good mood, better than I'd seen him in months. He'd been going through a rough patch at work, some kind of dispute with his supervisor that had left him stressed and short-tempered. But that morning, driving through the pre-dawn darkness with coffee in the cup holders and classic rock on the radio, he seemed lighter. He kept talking about how much he needed this, how he just wanted to be out there, away from everything, away from phones and emails and people who didn't understand that sometimes you just need silence. I understood. I've been feeling the same pressure. My wife and I have been trying to have a kid for 2 years with no luck, and the whole process had become this grinding source of tension. Every month, the same disappointment. Every conversation with friends who had children felt like a reminder of what we didn't have. I needed the wilderness too. Needed to remember that there were problems you could solve with preparation and skill, not just luck and waiting. We reached the trailhead around 9 in the morning. The parking area was empty, except for a Forest Service truck that looked like it hadn't moved in days. The air smelled like pine needles and cold water. Marcus was already pulling his pack out of the truck bed, checking his rifle, going through the mental checklist he always did before we headed out. I did the same. My .308 was loaded, but not chambered. Bear spray on my hip, knife on my belt, water filter, first aid kit, fire starter, headlamp, everything I'd carried 100 times before. The trail started out easy. Well-maintained switchbacks through mixed forest, the kind of hiking you can do while carrying on a conversation. Marcus was talking about his rifle, a .300 Win mag he'd bought specifically for this hunt. Too much gun probably, but he wanted to make sure he could drop a bear quickly if he got a shot. I was carrying my .308 with 180 grain rounds. Not ideal for bear, but I wasn't planning to shoot unless something went very wrong. We made good time the first few miles. The trail climbed steadily, and by noon we'd covered almost half the distance. We stopped for lunch on a ridge with a view of the drainage below. You could see the creek winding through the valley, thick stands of timber on both sides, and beyond that, the endless corrugation of mountains stretching into Montana. It was the kind of view that makes you understand why people spend their whole lives chasing wilderness. Marcus ate his sandwich and stared at the valley. "I want to find a big one," he said. "Not for the meat. I mean, yeah, bear meat's decent if you cook it right. But I want to find a big one because it means he's survived. He's made it through winters and other bears and hunters and everything else this place throws at you. That's what I want to see." I nodded. I understood. It wasn't about killing. It was about being close to something that powerful, that capable, about earning the right to take a life by understanding how difficult it is to maintain one out here. We shouldered our packs and kept going. The trail got rougher after lunch, steeper, rockier, less maintained. We passed through sections where deadfall had blocked the path and we had to climb over or around moss-covered logs that crumbled under our boots. The forest changed too, darker. The aspens gave way to dense stands of spruce and fir that blocked out most of the sunlight. The temperature dropped. I could see my breath. Around 3 in the afternoon, we reached the clearing Marcus had scouted. It was smaller than I expected, maybe 50 yards across, with the creek running along the eastern edge. The ground was soft, covered in pine needles and leaf litter. There were fresh bear tracks in the mud near the water. Big tracks. Marcus knelt down and measured one with his hand. 4.5 inches across the pad, he said. Maybe 5. That's a good-sized boar. We set up the tent on the higher ground, away from the creek. Marcus insisted on that. Never camp near water in bear country. Animals come to drink at dawn and dusk, and you don't want to be between a bear and his water source. We strung our food bags in a tree 20 yards away, using paracord to hang them high enough that no bear could reach. Then we gathered firewood, a lot of it. The temperature was dropping fast, and we'd need a good fire to stay warm through the night. By the time we had camp set up, it was nearly dark. We cooked a simple dinner over the fire. Dehydrated chili, rehydrated with creek water, instant coffee, trail mix. Marcus was quieter now, scanning the tree line with his headlamp. "You hear that?" he asked. I listened. At first, I didn't hear anything except the creak and the occasional crack of a branch settling in the fire. Then I caught it. A low sound, rhythmic and deliberate. Something moving through the brush on the far side of the clearing. "Probably an elk," I said, "or a deer." Marcus nodded, but he kept his headlamp pointed at the trees. Whatever it was didn't come closer. After a few minutes, the sound stopped. We finished eating and sat by the fire, talking less now, just watching the flames and listening to the forest. I should have paid more attention to that sound, should have realised that elk don't move that slowly, that deliberately, should have understood that something was already watching it. We turned in around 10. The tent was cold, despite our sleeping bags, and I could hear Marcus shifting around, trying to get comfortable. "You awake?" he asked after a while. "Yeah. You ever think about what it would be like to just stay out here, not go back?" I didn't answer right away. It was a strange question, the kind you only ask when you're far from civilization and your mind starts wandering into uncomfortable places. "Sometimes," I said, "but I don't think I could handle it, not long term." "Yeah," Marcus said. "Me neither, but it's a nice fantasy." We fell asleep eventually, or I did anyway. I don't know if Marcus ever really slept that night. The next thing I remember is being jerked awake by a sound that made my stomach drop. It was a scream, not human, but not quite animal either, high-pitched and furious, coming from somewhere close to our camp. I fumbled for my headlamp and turned it on. Marcus was already sitting up, his rifle in his hands. "What the hell was that?" "I don't know." The scream came again. Closer this time, I unzipped the tent and looked outside. The fire had burned down to coals, giving off barely any light. Beyond the faint red glow, the forest was pitch black. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear movement. Something circling the camp, staying just outside the range of our headlamp. "Mountain lion," Marcus whispered. "Maybe." But it didn't sound like a mountain lion. I'd heard them before, that eerie yowling they do during mating season. This was different, more aggressive, more intentional. We sat there for maybe 20 minutes, rifles ready, waiting for whatever it was to either attack or leave. Eventually, the sounds faded. Not quickly, but gradually, like whatever was out there had decided we weren't worth the effort. We rebuilt the fire and sat next to it until dawn, taking turns keeping watch. Neither of us wanted to go back into the tent. When the sun finally came up, we searched the perimeter of our camp. There were tracks everywhere, bear tracks, but not the same ones we'd seen by the creek. These were smaller, maybe 3.5 inches across, a sow probably, and mixed in with the bear tracks were marks I couldn't identify at first. Deep gouges in the soft ground, like something had been dragging its claws. The spacing was wrong for a bear, too narrow, too deliberate. Marcus photographed the tracks with his phone, even though we had no signal out here. "I've never seen anything like this," he said. "You want to pack up and head out?" He looked at me like I'd suggested we give up breathing. "We just got here, and I drew this tag. I'm not wasting it because something walked through camp." I didn't argue. Part of me agreed with him. We'd come all this way, and we were prepared. We had rifles, bear spray, fire. We knew what we were doing. And besides, whatever had been circling us last night had left. It hadn't attacked. That meant it was afraid of us, or at least cautious. That's how predators work. They don't take unnecessary risks. We spent the morning glassing the drainage, looking for bears. Marcus spotted a black shape moving through the huckleberries about a mile away, but it was too far to tell if it was a bear or just shadows playing tricks. We decided to move closer, following a game trail that paralleled the creek. The forest was thick here, the kind of terrain where you can't see more than 20 or 30 yards in any direction. Every step felt heavy. I kept my rifle ready, safety off, one round chambered. Around midday, we found more tracks, fresh ones, the same strange marks we'd seen at camp, only now they were following us. I could see where something had stopped and turned. watching us from behind a fallen log. The gouges in the earth were deep, like whatever made them had weight behind it. Marcus saw them too. He didn't say anything, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. We kept moving, faster now, both of us scanning the trees. The forest had gone quiet. No birds, no squirrels, just the sound of our boots and our breathing. We reached a small clearing around 2 in the afternoon. There was a log in the centre, torn apart, with grubs and beetles scattered around it. Fresh bear sign. Marcus knelt down to examine it, and that's when I saw movement at the edge of the clearing. A shape, low to the ground, moving through the shadows. Marcus. He looked up, saw what I was seeing. We both raised our rifles. The shape stopped. For a moment, I thought it was going to run. Then it stepped into the light, and I saw it clearly. It was a bear, but something was wrong with it. Its fur was matted and patchy, like it had been in a fight. Its eyes were, I don't know how to describe them, too aware, too focused. It was looking at us the way a person would, studying us, calculating. Marcus raised his rifle. The bear didn't move. It just stood there, watching. Then it opened its mouth and made a sound I'll never forget. Not a growl or a roar, a low, guttural clicking noise, almost mechanical, like it was trying to speak. "Shoot it," I whispered. Marcus didn't move, and his finger was on the trigger, but he wasn't pulling it. "It's not charging," he said. "I can't shoot if it's not charging." The bear took a step forward, then another, slow, deliberate. Not aggressive, but not retreating either. It was testing it. "Marcus, shoot." He fired. The shot was loud, deafening in the still air. The bullet hit the bear in the shoulder, spinning it around. It roared, a normal sound this time, and took off into the trees. Marcus chambered another round and followed it. I ran after him, yelling at him to stop, but he wasn't listening. We found blood, a lot of it. Dark red, almost black, splattered on leaves and bark. The trail was easy to follow, too easy. It was like the bear wanted us to follow it. We tracked it for maybe half a mile. The blood trail stayed consistent, never tapering off the way it should have if the wound was clotting. Marcus was moving fast, his rifle up, his breathing hard. I kept telling him to slow down, to wait, but he ignored me. The trail led us into a dense section of forest where the trees grew so close together that we had to push through branches just to move forward. The blood trail ended at a small ravine, maybe 15 feet deep. At the bottom there was something dark and unmoving. Marcus started climbing down. I grabbed his arm. "Don't. I hit it. I need to make sure it's dead. Then let's come back with more light. We've got maybe 2 hours before dark." He pulled away from me and kept climbing. I watched him reach the bottom, his rifle raised, moving toward the dark shape. He prodded it with his boot. Then he knelt down and rolled it over. It wasn't the bear. It was a deer, or what was left of one. The carcass had been torn apart, ribs exposed, organs missing, and it was fresh, still warm. I could see steam rising from the body cavity. Marcus looked up at me. "What the hell?" The clicking sound came from behind him. I saw the bear emerge from the shadows at the far end of the ravine, but it wasn't moving like an injured animal. It was moving fast, fluid, like nothing Marcus had shot had slowed it down at all. "Run!" I screamed. Marcus turned and fired. The shot hit the bear in the chest, but it didn't stop. It crashed into him, and they both went down in a tangle of fur and limbs. I was climbing down the ravine, trying to get a clear shot, but they were moving too fast. I could hear Marcus yelling, hear the bear's clicking growl, hear the wet sounds of tearing. I reached the bottom and fired 3 times. 2 of the shots missed. The third hit the bear in the back leg. It released Marcus and turned on me. I saw its face clearly then, saw the intelligence in its eyes, saw the blood on its muzzle. I fired again. The bear dropped. I chambered another round, but it didn't move. I stood there, shaking, my finger on the trigger, waiting for it to get back up. It didn't. I turned to Marcus. He was on the ground, his chest torn open, his face pale. There was blood everywhere, too much blood. I dropped next to him, tried to press my hands against the wounds, but I couldn't stop the bleeding. He looked at me, tried to say something, but only blood came out. He died in that ravine while I held him. It took maybe 2 minutes. I've relived those 2 minutes every day since. I don't remember hiking out. I know I did, because I made it back to the trailhead and drove to the nearest ranger station, but I don't remember the detail. The rangers went back with a team the next day. They found Marcus's body. They found the bear too, right where I'd shot it. But here's the part no one believes. When they examined the bear, they found something wrong with it. Its brain was partially decayed, even though the rest of the animal was healthy. There were lesions on the tissue, signs of infection or disease. The biologist who examined it said it looked like a prion disease, something like chronic wasting disease, but more aggressive. He said it could explain the strange behaviour, the aggression, the way it kept coming even after being shot. But it didn't explain the tracks I saw, the ones that weren't bear tracks, the ones that followed us through the forest. The ranger I spoke to, a woman named Caldwell, who'd been working in the Selway-Bitterroot for 20 years, pulled me aside before I left. "You're not the first person to report something like this," she said quietly. "We don't talk about it publicly because we don't want to scare people, but there have been other incidents, hunters who went missing, camps that were torn apart, animals that act wrong." "What is it?" I asked. She looked at me for a long time before answering. "I don't know. Maybe it's just disease. Maybe it's something we don't understand yet. But if I were you, I wouldn't go back there." I haven't. I sold my hunting gear 6 months later. I still have my rifles locked in a safe, but I haven't touched them. My wife and I finally had a kid last year, a daughter. She's healthy and perfect, and I spend every day grateful that I get to watch her grow up. But I also spend every day thinking about Marcus, about how he wanted to find a big bear, because it would mean it survived, about how survival out there isn't just about strength or skill. Sometimes it's just about luck, and sometimes no amount of luck is enough. I still have nightmares. In them, I'm back in that ravine, watching Marcus on the ground, watching the bear move toward him. But in the dreams, when I shoot the bear, it doesn't fall. It just keeps coming. And right before it reaches me, it opens its mouth and makes that clicking sound. That horrible mechanical clicking that doesn't belong in any living thing. Then I wake up. I check on my daughter. I make sure all the doors are locked. I tell myself it was just an animal, just a sick animal, and that I'm safe now. But I don't believe it, because I saw the tracks. I saw the way it looked at, and I know, somewhere deep in my gut, that what killed Marcus wasn't just a bear. I don't hunt anymore. I don't camp. I don't even like driving past forests at night. My wife thinks it's PTSD, and maybe it is, but it's more than that. It's the knowledge that there are things in the wilderness we don't understand, things that don't follow the rules. We think they do. Marcus wanted to see something that survived. He did, and it cost him everything. People ask me sometimes if I think about going back, if I want closure or to face my fear or whatever other psychological buzzword they think applies. The answer is no. I got out. That's more than Marcus did. And every night when I close my eyes and hear that clicking sound in my dreams, I'm reminded that some places aren't meant for us. Some hunts aren't meant to be. One of us never came back from that camping trip, but honestly, I'm not sure both of us made it out either. Because the person I was before we hiked into that drainage, the person who believed he understood the wilderness and his place in it, that person died in the ravine with Marcus. What came back was someone who knows better. Someone who understands that we're not always the apex predator. Sometimes we're just meat. And the only difference between the dead and the living is a few seconds of luck and a willingness to run, when everything inside you says to fight. I think about Marcus every day, about the last thing he said to me around the campfire, about wanting to stay out there and never come back. He got his wish, and I have to live with the fact that I didn't. Ranger Caldwell called me 6 months after the incident. She'd found something in the area where we'd been hunting. More tracks, more evidence of animals behaving strangely. A sow bear had attacked a ranger in broad daylight, something that almost never happened. They'd put it down and examined it. Same brain lesion, same signs of disease. "We're closing that section of the wilderness," she told me, "at least temporarily, until we understand what's happening." "Do you think you will?" I asked. "Understand it?" She was quiet for a long time. "No," she said finally. "I don't think we will. I think there are things up there that don't want to be understood." She hasn't called since. I don't know if they reopened that section of wilderness, or if they ever figured out what was wrong with those bears. I don't want to know. Some questions are better left unanswered. I keep Marcus's hunting knife on my desk. His wife gave it to me at the funeral. She said he would have wanted me to have it. I don't use it. I just look at it sometimes and remember what it felt like to have a friend who understood the pull of the wild, who knew that sometimes you need to be far from everything just to feel like yourself again. He was right about that, but he was wrong about one thing. He thought being out there would make him feel more alive. Instead, it's where he died. And I can't shake the feeling that whatever killed him is still out there, still watching, still waiting for the next person who thinks they understand the rules. I don't hunt anymore. I don't camp. And when my daughter is old enough to ask me to take her hiking, I'm going to say no. Not because I don't love the wilderness, but because I love her more. And I know now that there are places in this world where love isn't enough to keep you safe. Marcus learned that lesson. I just wish I'd learned it before we hiked into that drainage. Some camping trips, one of you doesn't come back. And if you're the one who does, you spend the rest of your life wondering why. I don't have an answer. I just have the memories, and the knife, and the dreams where I'm back in that ravine, watching my best friend die, while something that shouldn't exist clicks its teeth and watches from the shadows. That's the real horror. Not that Marcus died, but that I survived to remember it.